For the last couple of decades, China dominated the demand for metals and minerals consumption in the world. According to a World Bank report from 1997, China's share of energy consumption more than doubled from 11% to 23% of the global demand, while its share of metal consumption rose fivefold from 10% to 50% of the global demand. As China is shifting from a manufacturing economy to a consumption driven economy, other emerging markets, especially India, can take that place. India has been a low consumption economy historically. For example, per capita consumption of oil in India is just 27% of the global average. With major policy shifts towards manufacturing with Make in India and increasing per capita income can make India the next driver of the global demand for metals and minerals. According to BP Energy Outlook 2019, India's share for global primary energy demand is set to double to 11% by 2040. As per an OECD report, the global demand for steel till 2040 will be driven by Indian economy, and it is projected to grow at 5.6% average, while demand in the developed countries and China is expected to slow down. Metals and minerals are fundamental for economic growth, and for Indian economy to reach its full potential, it needs to secure reliable and economic sources of these resources. In this video, I am going to talk about this industry in India. As mentioned before, India has been a low consumption economy. For example, the oil consumption per capita in India is only 1.2 barrel of oil equivalent compared to the global average of 4.5. Steel is 70.9 kgs per capita compared to global average of 224.5 kgs. But this is going to change. As per Wood Mackenzie, by 2030, the oil and gas demand in India is expected to grow at 2.2% average compared to 0.4% globally. The thermal coal growth in India is expected to be 2.5% average compared to 0.4% globally. We can see that India is expected to be the major driver of the global demand in the coming years. First, let's look at the supply side or the production capability in India. As per the annual report 2018-19 of Ministry of Mines, India produces 95 minerals, 4 of which are fuels, 10 metallic, 23 non-metallic, 3 atomic and 55 minor minerals. The mining and quarrying sector contributes 2.38% of the gross value added to the Indian economy, which stands at 51.3 billion USD. Now, let's talk about the sufficiency of this production. So, India imports more than 80% of crude oil requirement and more than 50% of natural gas. But when it comes to iron ore, India is expected to be the fourth largest producer of iron ore. In 2017-18, India produced 201 million tons, which is expected to grow at 5%. Indian coal production stood at 739 million tons in fiscal year 19, which also growing at 4.47%. In fiscal year 2017-18, the aluminium production stood at 3.4 million tons. Now let's look at the different players in this market. Most players in this sector are state-owned and have monopoly over specific sectors. Some of the players are NMDC Limited, which produces iron ore, copper, rock phosphate, limestone, etc. It is the largest iron ore producer in India. Then Hindalco, which produces aluminium and copper. It is the world's largest aluminium rolling company. Then Vedanta, which produces zinc, lead, silver, aluminium, copper, iron ore, and oil and gas. Then Coal India, which basically does coal mining. Then ONGC, which is which produces 75% of Indian crude oil and natural gas. Oil India, which does exploration, development of and production of crude oil and natural gas. Now let's look at the legal structure for this industry in India. This is a highly regulated industry. The metals and minerals are shared inheritance of a country, and the state works as a trustee on behalf of people. The Constitution of India gives special rights to the union and the state governments in the 7th schedule, the 53-54 entry in the union list and 23 in the state list. The union has power to regulate and develop the oil fields and mineral oils, and also create regulation for the other oil and development of the other minerals. The state has the power to give the concession for the development of minerals and also collect royalties, debt rent and fees. The primary administrator for mining in India is Ministry of Mines, which has Indian Bureau of Mines, the Ministry of Coal and Ministry of Petroleum and Natural Gas under it. Now, the legal structure in India for the mining sector is created by Mines and Minerals Development and Regulation Act 1957, which doesn't cover the petroleum and natural gas. The Petroleum Act 1934 covers this, petroleum and natural gas. Now, MMDR Act went through major amendment in 2015, and the amendments are it changed the basis of concession from first come first serve to a transparent e-auction. It also removed the requirement for renewal, and it also created the basis for establishment of district mineral foundation for the welfare of people and areas affected by mining. Also created the basis for strict penalty for illegal mining. The current policy structure of this industry is National Mineral Policy 2019. The vision for this policy is to promote domestic industry and reduce import dependency. It also gives emphasis on feeding into Make in India initiative, allocation of mineral resources in a fair and transparent manner, and mining in environmentally sustainable manner. Now, some of the steps taken are introduction of right of first refusal for reconnaissance permit and prospecting license holders, so renewal is not required. Encouraging the private sector to take up exploration, encouraging merger and acquisition in this sector, and transfer of mining leases, and creation of dedicated mineral corridors, ease of financing for mining activities for private players, and acquisition of mining assets in other countries. We can think this industry as a conduit between the sources of these minerals and the markets where the demand for these minerals exists in the pure form or in some transformed form. Now, the sustainability of the companies in this industry depends on three things: access to the sources of these minerals in a reliable and economic manner, access to the markets, and ability to deal with the fluctuations in demand and supply. When it comes to access to the sources, it means ability to work with the governments, understanding and influencing policies. Also, ability to deal with the local stakeholders other than the shareholders. Now, access to markets means obviously having transportation capabilities and also having long-term contracts in the demand side. Now, dealing with the demand side fluctuations, so in the short term it means demand forecasting or business cycle forecasting, etc. But in the long term it means being on the top of the major trends, such as the move towards a low carbon economy, which is going to change the composition of demand for the commodities. Now, with this is Sam Ghosh. Thank you for watching.